5 students, 1 Saturday. No one leaves unchanged. Welcome to a revealing deep dive into one of the most defining teen films of all time, The Breakfast Club. In this video, we're uncovering 30 little-known facts that peel back the layers of John Hughes's timeless classic, from unexpected casting twists and real-life inspirations to improvised moments that made cinematic history. Whether you grew up quoting Bender's rebellious one-liners or just discovered the power of that final letter, this retrospective will change the way you see the film forever. So grab your lunch or breakfast and join us in the Shermer High library, where labels are shattered, secrets are shared, and one Saturday detention redefined a generation. Inspired by real detention, it might surprise you that the spark behind The Breakfast Club came from something as ordinary as a high school detention. But John Hughes had a front-row seat to this phenomenon during his own teenage years in Northbrook, Illinois. He noticed how students who almost never mingled suddenly found themselves confined to the same space, forced to coexist for several hours. No matter what clique they came from, jocks, geeks, popular kids, burnouts, they were in it together. Hughes remembered that cross-section of teen life, the awkward interactions, the tension, and decided that a whole movie built around that dynamic could be powerful. This real-life observation gave the film an authenticity that resonates with anyone who's had to endure a Saturday detention or found themselves stuck in a room with people they never expected to meet. Filmed in a real school. Though the fictional Shermer High School feels like a microcosm of every suburban high school in America, the production had a very specific location in mind: Maine North High School in Des Plaines, Illinois. At the time of filming, the school was actually closed down, which proved convenient for a film crew searching for a flexible shooting schedule without worrying about disturbing classes. The library set, where the story unfolds for nearly the entire film, was constructed inside the school's gymnasium, using extensive set dressing to transform the space into a visually captivating environment. It was a practical solution that created the illusion of a sprawling, well-stocked library. Once you know that secret, you might notice just how spacious the library actually is, hinting at its original function as a sports facility. One-day setting. The entirety of The Breakfast Club takes place on March 24, 1984, over the course of a single day. While other movies often jump between multiple days, weeks, or even months, John Hughes committed to a real-time approach, trapping his diverse cast of characters in that high school library for a single Saturday detention. By narrowing the focus to one day and one location, the film amplifies every glance, every remark, and every moment of silence. It's claustrophobic in the best way, forcing the characters, and us, the audience, to confront their differences and eventual bond without the luxury of escape. This intensity is what lends the movie its raw, honest feel, pushing the teens to connect in ways they might never have imagined before being forced into that confined space. Hughes wrote it in 2 days. As if capturing the complexity of teenage life wasn't challenging enough, John Hughes wrote the initial screenplay draft for The Breakfast Club in an astonishing 2 days in July 1982. Known for his rapid writing sessions, he had a knack for channeling teen voices and emotional landscapes with uncanny accuracy. Even though the final filming script underwent revisions and the actors contributed improvisations, the core blueprint was sketched out in less than 48 hours. That creative sprint might explain the screenplay's unfiltered energy. It feels immediate, honest, and unconstrained by overthinking. Hughes's direct line to the adolescent psyche is evident in the dialogue's authenticity, making it all the more impressive that it sprang to life in such a short window. Original title: before anyone uttered the words The Breakfast Club, the movie was almost called The Lunch Bunch. On the surface, that might seem like a minor detail, just a different meal of the day. yet it dramatically shifted the entire feel of the film. Legend has it that John Hughes heard his son's school using the term breakfast club to describe morning detention, and it immediately resonated with his vision. The difference between these two titles goes beyond simple wordplay. Lunch Bunch conjures an image of a breezy midday meetup, as if a group of friends casually decided to hang out. But Breakfast Club hints at something far grittier and more ironic, a forced gathering at an indecently early hour on a Saturday, which nobody actually wants to attend. The idea of waking up at dawn on a weekend to serve time in detention underscores the drudgery and reluctance all five characters feel, creating an undercurrent of tension and gloom that perfectly anchors the film's emotional stakes. Beyond just setting the mood, the switch to Breakfast Club also added a curious twist of exclusivity. The term club usually implies a chosen membership, a place where people want to belong. Here, it's a label for students who have no choice but to show up before they've even properly woken up. That contrast captures the spirit of the movie. It's a punishment on paper, yet within these early morning walls lies the potential for real connection and self-discovery. This dissonance between forced confinement and unexpected camaraderie becomes the film's driving pulse. Molly Ringwald's casting debate. When it came time to cast Claire Standish, Universal Studios showed hesitation about Molly Ringwald, mostly because they believed she was too young. John Hughes, however, had already worked with Ringwald on 16 Candles, 1984, and recognized her ability to convey teenage vulnerability and poise. He insisted she was the right choice. Ultimately, the studio relented, and Ringwald's iconic performance became one of the film's defining elements. Her portrayal of the popular yet conflicted Claire added that perfect blend of grace, frustration, and quiet longing, proving once again that Hughes knew precisely who he wanted in that role. Judd Nelson's method, acting. Judd Nelson famously immersed himself in the role of John Bender, the rebellious criminal who clashes with everyone else. Off-camera, Nelson continued to channel Bender's surly disposition, sometimes antagonizing fellow cast members, including Molly Ringwald, in an attempt to stay in character. While his behavior occasionally rubbed people the wrong way, it also brought an extra layer of authenticity to his on-screen persona. Bender's anger, sarcasm, and underlying vulnerability feel startlingly real. Hughes may have worried that Nelson was taking the role too far, but no one can deny the palpable energy that crackles through every scene where Bender confronts the rest of the group. Emilio Estevez's role, Swap. It's wild to imagine a version of The Breakfast Club where Emilio Estevez was the surly rebel John Bender. Initially, that was the plan, and Estevez even prepared for the part by tapping into his darker, more defiant side. However, once director John Hughes saw Judd Nelson's intense demeanor and sensed that Estevez carried a more earnest, team-oriented energy, he realized the film's chemistry demanded a swap. Estevez assumed the role of Andrew Clark, the varsity wrestler driven by his father's high expectations, and Nelson got to unleash Bender's simmering resentment and biting sarcasm. In hindsight, this shift was pivotal. As Andrew, Estevez radiates a sense of pent-up frustration, balancing between the dutiful athlete everyone admires and the conflicted young man desperate to step off his predestined path. You see it in the way he glances around the library, hyper-aware of how the world perceives him, yet also craving deeper human connections he never fully experienced on the mat or in the locker room. Meanwhile, Judd Nelson's brooding intensity was tailor-made for Bender's criminal persona, giving him the freedom to confront, provoke, and eventually bear his vulnerability to the group. That last-minute call underscores Hughes's almost uncanny ability to match actor to archetype in a way that maximizes each performer's strengths. Instead of a miscast that might have dulled the movie's spark, it led to the magnetic push and pull between Andrew's pent-up angst and Bender's razor-sharp hostility. By embracing the power of that final casting choice, The Breakfast Club gained a central rivalry that truly simmers, fueling some of the film's most electric moments, and reminding us that, in the realm of movies, a slight pivot in who plays whom can radically alter how a story resonates with its audience. John Hughes's cameo. Eagle-eyed fans might spot John Hughes himself in a fleeting cameo, stepping out of the director's chair to play Brian Johnson's dad. This brief scene arrives at the very end as he pulls up in a BMW to collect Brian from detention, a moment that's blink and you'll miss it unless you know exactly who you're looking for. On the surface, it might feel like a simple director cameo tradition, but it actually speaks volumes about Hughes's connection to these characters and their stories. In many ways, Hughes inserting himself as a parent underscores the dichotomy he occupied at the time. He was no longer a teenager living these formative high school experiences, yet he still remembered them vividly and wrote about them with a startling authenticity. By giving himself the role of Brian's father, Hughes literally places himself in the position of an adult figure who is on the outside looking in, someone who comes in at the tail end of the day to pick up a kid who's gone through a profound transformation. Moreover, this cameo functions as a playful wink to the audience, a reminder that although The Breakfast Club feels intensely real, it's also a constructed world born from Hughes's perspective. It tells us that behind these vivid teenagers, Brian, Allison, Bender, Claire, and Andrew, there is a creator who profoundly remembers being in their shoes. Rick Moranis, almost cast. It's mind-boggling to picture beloved comedic star Rick Moranis, famous for his offbeat charm in Ghostbusters and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, stepping into the shoes of Carl the janitor, brandishing a thick Russian accent for added flair. According to behind-the-scenes accounts, that was indeed Moranis's plan, but it clashed dramatically with John Hughes's vision of a more down-to-earth, quietly perceptive custodian. Hughes felt the over-the-top humor and exaggerated accent would draw too much attention away from the nuanced interactions among the students, effectively hijacking the delicate emotional balance of the film. In the end, Moranis parted ways with the project, opening the door for John Kapelos to take on the role. Kapelos's portrayal of Carl strikes a perfect tonal balance. He's wryly cynical about the high school system, yet exudes a certain compassion for the 5 teenagers stuck in Saturday detention. By keeping Carl's presence more subdued and grounded, Hughes allowed the character to serve as the film's moral compass, a once-celebrated alumnus who now works behind the scenes and sees everything that goes on, for better or worse. He's neither cartoonishly jaded nor overly sentimental. Instead, he's simply a mirror reflecting the students' truths back at them. It's a role that hints at the irony of growing up. Even the former Man of the Year can wind up scrubbing floors, still trying to make sense of the social hierarchies he once navigated as a student himself. Improvised scenes. Part of what makes this movie feel so genuine is that much of the group discussion in the library was improvised. Hughes recognized that having 5 young actors bring their personal experiences into the conversation could yield something more raw than a strict script. He encouraged them to open up about their own teenage angst, heartbreak, and fears. While the overarching story stayed intact, some of the film's most memorable exchanges emerged spontaneously. This approach bridged the gap between actor and character, creating that sense of authenticity that audiences continue to connect with decades later. Ally Sheedy's dandruff scene, Allison Reynolds's dandruff snowfall, is not just one of the most delightfully offbeat moments in The Breakfast Club. It's a perfect symbol for her character's strange, endearing blend of artistry and self-consciousness. In that fleeting scene, Allison sprinkles real dandruff onto a dark drawing, transforming mundane flakes into shimmering snow. This small, unplanned gesture highlights several layers of Allison's personality. She's unafraid to embrace her quirks, yet also intensely private, using off-the-wall creativity to keep people guessing. From a visual standpoint, the pale flecks floating down on black paper create a starkly beautiful image, reinforcing Allison's knack for turning the ordinary into something magical. Yet, beneath the humor, yes, Ali Sheedy has joked about the hygiene implications, there's a deeper sense of vulnerability. Her character is the so-called basket case, the group outsider who doesn't speak much, yet always notices everything around her. By scattering dandruff onto her artwork, Allison reveals how she processes her inner world in ways that others might find odd or unsettling. Instead of hiding the more uncomfortable aspects of herself, she incorporates them into an artistic statement, no matter how bizarre or unsanitary it might appear. It's a moment that also mirrors the evolving dynamics in the library. The more the characters reveal about themselves, the more they break down the superficial judgments that keep them apart. For Andrew Clark, played by Emilio Estevez, Allison's odd display piques his curiosity. There's a sense that he's never encountered someone who expresses herself so freely and unabashedly. That intrigue deepens when he realizes there's far more beneath Allison's silent exterior than he initially assumed. Meanwhile, for the audience, the dandruff snow underscores that each of these 5 students harbors unique truths and hidden talents. Bender's fist pump. Few endings in 80s cinema are as iconic as John Bender marching across the football field, trench coat billowing in the wind, and throwing his fist in the air while "Don't You Forget About Me" plays. That triumphant move wasn't scripted. It was Judd Nelson's impromptu flourish. Hughes reportedly loved the take so much, he made it the film's final shot. This spontaneous moment encapsulates the raw teenage energy and rebellious triumph that The Breakfast Club stands for, leaving viewers with an indelible final image that says so much without a single word of dialogue. R-rated language. If you've ever wondered how a heartfelt teen film like this could flirt with an R rating, look no further than the script's language. The screenplay contains 29 uses of the F-word and other strong profanities. Hughes believed that raw, unfiltered dialogue was essential to capturing authentic teenage angst and frustration, though it nearly cost him a broader audience. Ultimately, the movie was labeled R, meaning teens needed parental accompaniment to see it. This rating ironically mirrored the film's core tension, the gap between adult oversight and teenage self-expression. Deleted scenes. There's an entire hidden trove of footage, reportedly over an hour long, that didn't make it into the final cut. One such removed scene featured Claire giving Allison a more extended makeover in the school's bathroom. While the concept was reworked into a shorter version in the finished film, the longer sequence delved deeper into Allison's transformation. Some fans argue that losing these scenes sacrificed extra character development, but others feel the streamlined approach kept the movie's momentum. It's always tantalizing to consider what else might have further fleshed out these already vivid characters. Real teen input. Unlike many teen movies that rely on adult assumptions about how young people speak and behave, John Hughes involved the cast in workshopping the script, but he also had them meet and spend time with actual high school students. This was a deliberate effort to ensure that the dialogue felt fresh and not forced. Whenever an exchange sounded too much like an adult pretending to be a teen, it was tweaked or improvised until it rang true. This commitment to authenticity is one of the reasons The Breakfast Club remains so relatable. It never talks down to its audience. Anthony Michael Hall's growth spurt. Anthony Michael Hall was only 16 during production, which meant he was still in the midst of a teenage growth spurt. During filming, he grew several inches, forcing the costume department to scramble for adjustments and sometimes prompting creative camera angles to keep his height consistent within certain scenes. This real-life detail further highlights the unpredictability of working with actual teens. The fact that the cast was genuinely close to the age of their characters, with some exceptions, injects an undeniable sincerity into the film. Simple Minds' Reluctance. The band responsible for The Breakfast Club's signature track, Don't You Forget About Me, initially wanted nothing to do with the song. Simple Minds dismissed the track as not fitting their style, but producer Keith Forsey persisted in convincing them to record it. The result is one of the most iconic soundtrack songs of the entire decade, intertwining with that final fist pump in a way that feels utterly destined. This reluctant collaboration became a global hit, reminding us that sometimes the best creative decisions arise from uncertain beginnings. Budget constraints. In today's era of blockbuster budgets, it might shock you to learn that The Breakfast Club was made on roughly a $1 million budget. This shoestring approach forced John Hughes to rely on strong writing, intense character work, and an extremely limited number of sets. But those budget constraints actually ended up highlighting the film's raw emotional core. Without flashy effects or elaborate sequences, the focus stayed exactly where it belonged, on 5 kids forging real connections. The film subsequently earned over $51 million worldwide, proving that a small-scale story with a huge heart can resonate on a global level. Molly Ringwald's dance moves. In the spontaneous library dance sequence, it's hard not to notice Claire's distinctive moves. That's because Molly Ringwald choreographed her own portion, drawing on her background in ballet. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast improvised, leading to a charming mismatch of styles. Estevez's character does athletic leaps, Hall's Brian waves his arms, while Sheedy's Allison moves in her own quirky orbit. It's a beautifully chaotic snapshot of teen energy, unpolished, joyous, and layered with each character's personality. Bender's knife. Whenever Bender flicks open that switchblade in the film, know that it wasn't just a movie prop. It was a genuine knife that Judd Nelson practiced handling to create a sense of real danger around the character. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this made some of his co-stars a bit nervous, especially during intense confrontations. But it underscores how committed Nelson was to bringing Bender's reckless bravado to the screen, adding a tangible edginess to the group's dynamic. Carl's backstory. The school janitor, Carl, might seem like a minor character at first glance, but there's a hidden depth to him. The film reveals that Carl was once crowned Man of the Year at Shermer High. This hint suggests a life path that led from being celebrated to working behind the scenes, cleaning up after these kids who now scarcely notice him. That depth was inspired by a real custodian Hughes knew, driving home the point that every adult in this world used to be a teenager, carrying dreams, accomplishments, and regrets into the present. Breakfast Club. Name. Origin. While The Lunch Bunch was an early contender, the Breakfast Club title also traces back to the real tradition of calling detention the Breakfast Club at New Trier High School in Illinois, where Hughes's children attended. It's a prime example of art echoing real life. That phrase alone conjures up images of tired, unenthusiastic students forced to start their weekend early in the school library, a scenario that captures the entire film's premise in just 3 words. Psychological depth. John Hughes wanted the emotional arcs of these teens to carry weight. He even consulted a psychologist to shape certain scenes and character beats, particularly the vulnerable confessions of Brian, Anthony Michael Hall, and Allison, Ally Sheedy. This guidance helped ensure that the struggles we see, academic pressure, social anxiety, family expectations, feel genuine and, at times, heartbreakingly real. This is why The Breakfast Club endures. It doesn't hide from the emotional baggage teens lug around daily. Claire's sushi lunch. In a comedic moment that highlights both Claire's privilege and the era's changing food landscape, she whips out a sushi lunch during detention. In mid-1980s America, sushi was just becoming trendy, a delicacy that signified a more upscale or adventurous palate. Meanwhile, the other characters munch on everyday sandwiches or bag lunches. The sushi detail underscores Claire's distance from the rest of the group, even in something as simple as what she eats. Bender's earring controversy. John Bender sports a single earring that raised eyebrows among the producers who worried it might appear feminine or too edgy. But Hughes argued for keeping it, feeling it was the perfect subtle sign of Bender's rebel persona. In 1985, an earring on a male character was still relatively bold, highlighting the generational divide between rebellious youth and conservative adult expectations. That small detail further cements Bender's defiance, showing that even a tiny accessory can speak volumes. No rehearsal for final scene. One of the film's most poignant moments is the final scene, featuring the now iconic letter Brian writes on behalf of the group and Bender's fist pump. Interestingly, Hughes opted not to rehearse this sequence. He wanted the raw energy and tentative camaraderie among the characters to come through unfiltered. That choice to shoot without rehearsal led to an organic performance from each cast member, culminating in that triumphant end shot. It's amazing how a single day's emotional journey can be captured so perfectly in one unrehearsed take. Influence on teen films. The Breakfast Club shattered the teen movie template of its day, opting for heartfelt emotional conflict over wild parties or shallow romances. Its DNA can be traced through future hits like Mean Girls and Easy A, which also explore the social structures, cliques, and hidden commonalities beneath high school stereotypes. By focusing on genuine introspection and the struggles of identity, John Hughes basically rewrote the rulebook for how to portray teen life on screen. Even decades later, filmmakers still cite The Breakfast Club as a major inspiration when crafting ensembles of adolescent characters grappling with belonging and individuality. Molly Ringwald's wardrobe. Input. Molly Ringwald had a strong sense of style for a teen actress, and she collaborated with the wardrobe department to craft Claire's preppy, polished look. The pink blouse, the carefully chosen accessories, and the well-tailored skirt all reflect a wealthy, popular girl. Someone used to carrying herself with poise, but also someone who might be hiding deeper insecurities. That input from Ringwald helped maintain realism and consistency. After all, who better to shape an on-screen teen icon than a young actress with keen fashion instincts? Legacy of the letter. The film closes on Brian's introspective letter, read in voiceover, which lays out the core idea. These 5 kids, brain, athlete, basket case, princess, and criminal, are each more complicated than their labels suggest. Hughes personally wrote the final draft of that letter to mirror his own sense of being misunderstood in high school. In the movie, it resonates across generational lines, becoming one of cinema's most quoted monologues. The letter is a universal statement about refusing to be defined by stereotypes, an eternal truth that's as meaningful today as it was in 1985. And there you have it, 30 little-known facts that collectively form a deeper understanding of The Breakfast Club and how it managed to capture the lightning in a bottle that is teen angst. This is more than just a movie about 5 kids stuck in detention. It's a portrait of adolescence that stares you right in the eye and demands you recognize each character's humanity. John Hughes showed the world that teenagers are messy, complicated, and capable of forging genuine connections once they break down the labels that keep them apart. From real-world inspirations like Saturday detentions and closed-down high schools to personal touches like cameo appearances and improvisations, nearly every moment on screen is infused with authenticity. Even the behind-the-scenes stories, from abrupt role swaps to arguments over earring choices, mirror the very tensions that define growing up. Decades later, The Breakfast Club remains a cinematic benchmark against which many teen dramas are judged. Its influence is woven into pop culture, music, future film narratives, and the hearts of audiences who still see themselves in those 5 kids. Whether you're a first-time viewer or you've lost count of how many times you've watched it, there's always a new detail to discover, a new layer of empathy or understanding that resurfaces each time. So here's to timeless stories, teenage truths, and the small gestures, like a fist pump at dawn, that remind us everyone carries a little piece of rebellion and hope within them. As the letter so eloquently puts it, we're all more than just our labels. The question is, are we brave enough to explore what's hidden underneath?